the thing about an anti-vaxxer, he's got lifeless eyes. Black eyes like a doll's eyes. Speaking of Russell Brand, I never believed him. I always thought his comedy was a bit of a scam. I thought the teased hair and the eyeliner was just a gimmick. I thought his politics were fake. I thought he just traded in the teased hair and the eyeliner for Karl Marx. His latest scam is selling apathy to the left. Self-disenfranchisement, frustration with the system. It's called controlled opposition. It's a booming business right now. He's its latest star. He also likes to sell, while we're at it, right-wing conspiracy theories. Now I wonder where he could have gotten the idea for that. Who could have inspired this latest grift?
Joe Rogan, CNN are saying that Joe Rogan is the reason that we have all this misinformation, and even...
Actually, CNN's also saying that Fox News is the reason we have all this disinformation, and that's been proven by a study by the University of Chicago that found that Fox News viewership increases COVID infections and deaths. Now, I think it's safe to assume the same could be said of Joe Rogan. But Joe Rogan did put out that Instagram video where he said he would do better. Of course, he got like 4 facts wrong in 10 minutes in that Instagram video, including that Joni Mitchell song he mentioned that he said he loved so much, which turned out to be a Ricky Lee Jones song. But, who wants to be petty?
Even the reason that we don't trust mainstream media. But could another version of the truth be that while Joe Rogan is sort of doing a podcast, the mainstream media is slyly pushing us towards war?
Did you hear that? It's a fart noise. He starts every episode with that fart noise because, British comedians, they still wear propellers on their heads.
Welcome, you 4.8 million awakening wonders. Here we are together, resisting the duplicity and deception as we become more attuned to truth. This week, you can't avoid Joe Rogan. Now, we are talking about Joe Rogan, one, because you know what my position is on Joe Rogan, but I'm very...
His position is bent over with his ass cheek spread.
Interested when anything dominates the news cycle, particularly at a time that other important and interesting things are potentially occurring.
I want to show all kinds of opinions, which sounds great, but not all opinions are created equal.
Oh, real quick, before we get started, into this video. Russell Brand is from the UK. Occasionally he slips in and out of British talk, so I'm going to have to translate some of that into English.
Now, listen here, Sonny Jim, you're not only making people not trust you, you're making them not trust me. You think of...
That's hardcore, dude. He gets excited. He starts talking British. What he said there was that Joe Rogan is causing people to distrust CNN. Now, this is not uncommon. This has been a thing since before Rush Limbaugh. What happens is, ever since the Fairness Doctrine was eliminated, when mainstream media does not go along with the right-wing narrative on those rare occasions, then the right accuses the mainstream media of having a liberal bias, despite the fact that they're corporate-owned, so by definition, they're right-wing. Now, when the mainstream media does go along with the right-wing narrative, then all of a sudden, they're magically credible again. For example, WMDs.
About major newsrooms like CNN that have health departments and desks and operations that work hard on verifying information on COVID-19.
They're out of order, aren't they? They can't say that after the way they carried on around that horse paste stuff.
Ivermectin is something more often used to deworm horses.
Yes, that's the deworming medicine.
When you have a horse deworming medication,
Horse dewormer.
To deworm livestock.
As a horse dewormer.
that's the upside down world we're in with figures like Joe Rogan.
That one example showed
Is an example of accuracy in reporting, Mary Poppins. Ivermectin is used on horses. No reason it should be used on humans when it comes to COVID. That's fact. You could cry about it for the rest of your lives, and you probably will, but it's still a fucking fact. And another fucking fact. Ivermectin never won a Nobel Prize for curing COVID in 2015, as you guys have implied a billion fucking times. There was no pandemic. There was no COVID pandemic in 2015.
Told you that they were not operating in good faith. I care about the way that information is conveyed to us and whether or not that means there's an agenda at play. For example, I don't think Joe Rogan does have an agenda at play. I don't think Joe Rogan stops that.
Of course, Joe Rogan has an agenda. Everybody has an agenda. Joe Rogan has an agenda. It's to get people to stop taking vaccines. I have an agenda. It's to shit on Joe Rogan. You have an agenda. It's to avoid doing a sequel to Arthur.
Podcast which takes bloody hours and goes, right, what's next? These people do, though.
And then you have talk show stars like Joe Rogan who just wing it, who make it up as they go along. And because figures like Rogan are trusted by people that don't trust real newsrooms.
Well, like, why don't people trust me? They trust Rogan, but I'm perfectly trustworthy. Look how loose my tie knot is.
Holy shit, dude. That British fucking accent. Dude, his fucking he is talking so British it's bordering on homophobia. Holy cow. Gay people are fucking watching him right now getting offended, and he's got to be like, oh, I'm from the UK. And they're like, oh, yeah. Hey, just for the record, both of my brothers were born in the UK, and I love them both. One thing that I love about them is that they seem to have a very good handle on their indefinite articles. For example, when they get sick, they go to a hospital. They don't go to hospital. Because a hospital is a building, not a city. Just like an Oreo is a cookie, not a biscuit. This is America, and we do not butter our Oreos. Well, to be fair, some of us put butter on our Oreos, but you know what I mean. You don't know what I mean, but I know what I mean. I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyways, he goes on to say, to name drop Glenn Greenwald and Matt Taibbi, who are also members of the controlled opposition left. And I asked Matt Taibbi quite directly, probably about 3 times, could not get him to answer this question. I asked him, if mainstream media sources like Joe Rogan, if corporate media sources like Joe Rogan are allowed, have a right to spread disinformation, does he then also believe that the mainstream media had a right to lie about WMDs? Because that lie that the mainstream media sold the American public about weapons of mass destruction and about Saddam Hussein's connections to Al-Qaeda killed and displaced millions of people in the Middle East. Of course, I haven't gotten an answer yet from Matt Taibbi. I probably never will.